Hey everyone, Zion over here from Nintendo Life. And if you can darn well believe it, Pokemon Legends Arceus is here. And another thing I just realized is I said Pokemon, not Pokemon. So there, you've won. Are you happy, Internet? But today, I'm not here alone to say the name of Pokemon correctly, am I? I think I'm joined by a ghostly spirit that does not run on a CMOS battery. John Cartwright, are you there?
Ooh. I do run on a CMOS battery, actually, Zion, and it's running dry, so soon I'm going to forget everything.
Specifically, I specifically mentioned that if anybody ran on a CMOS battery, they could not be in this chat today. So, John, you're going to have to get that taken care of. But also, Alex is... Alex Only? Are you also there?
Pokemon Legends are Alex.
I see. I understand now. I'm sorry, everyone. I didn't like that.
Pokemon.
It's just how
gotta satch them all.
It's just how I've lived my life, you know. That's not what we're here to talk about today. Today we've been playing Pokemon Legends Arceus all weekend. I'd say maybe not 100% of the time. I played quite a bit and then found out that the amount of time I've put in was not really a whole lot. Thank you, everybody who yelled at me on Twitter about that or compared to me.
What kind individuals?
Yeah, I've been enjoying the game quite a bit. And so we thought we'd come and sit down after, finally having our claws dug straight into the game to let you know what we think about it and where we're all at.
Can I just open and say, oh my god, at last they've done something bloody different. And you know what? The end result is it's actually a really bloody good game, and I've been really enjoying myself. And frankly, if this had come out at the time of Sword and Shield had never existed, I don't think we'd be having the same conversations we're having today. I think it would have been heralded as absolutely bloody fantastic. Yeah, there are some technical problems. It's not exactly a massive looker, but holy Christ, from a mechanical level and just from a game design level, this is the best Pokemon has been in about, I'd say, 20 years.
Like his entire life cycle, pretty much. It's 20 years, but you're right, totally. I mean, like, you get those video compilations which are like, oh, here's the game 20 years ago, and here's it now. Look at the graphical jump. But for the most part, Pokemon is exactly like it was 20 years ago. But there haven't been that many. I mean, of course, there's been quality of life refinements and little adjustments to the formula, but for the most part, like, the battles and the way you get through the world are mostly exactly the same. But Arceus, for the very first time, has changed things. You know, it's not just about battling anymore, and that's way for the better. Like, we're not just going to battle screens after battle screens. A lot of the time, catching doesn't even involve battling, and it's such a good change.
I honestly was surprised because I was a skeptic when Pokemon Go was first revealed and he was showing, hey, you don't battle Pokemon, you just kind of catch them. And I thought, well, that sounds rubbish, but you know what? It was okay. I actually enjoyed it in Pokemon Go. I haven't played it in quite a while. I've kind of gone off it, but you know what? It was okay. It still had entertainment value. And I feel that this is like a further refinement, or realistically, I think it's a further complication of that formula. It's finding that middle ground where, it's not the simplicity of entering an arena like in Pokemon Go and throwing the ball and all that. You actually have this sort of real-time, real-world, completely seamless experience of, you can throw a Pokeball, it might not catch it, and if not, it might try and tear your face off. That's fun! How has it taken this long for this to happen? I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm very happy it's happened. I'm over the moon. But it does kind of scream at me, why has it been somebody, a game freak, screaming, going, let me make the good game. Let me make the good game. And eventually, someone higher up just went, fine, whatever. And the end result is just, frankly, very good.
In a way, I think you're right, because it does feel like this game it's not like this game wouldn't have been possible on the... I mean, graphically speaking, maybe we wouldn't have seen, maybe there would have been more limitations, but it feels like something like this could have been done on the GameCube or the Wii. the Wii U, I suppose, as well, you know. But I don't really understand what
Well,
took
yeah,
them.
I mean, sorry to interrupt, but we had stuff like Xenoblade Chronicles X.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if they would have pulled the trigger on the Wii U on releasing this on there. I don't know if this would have been if that would have been the test market for it.
No one would have played it.
Yeah, no one would have played. Yeah. Although, maybe if they had released it, it could have been kind of like the Game Boy, you know, Pokemon Red and Blue on the Game Boy, where it actually gave it some life, and maybe the Wii U would have been more successful. I'm not saying it would have happened. I'm saying it's an interesting thought.
Yeah, and you're right.
Yes.
It's not like the Wii U killed series either. You know, like Splatoon still is a massive success, even though it was born on the Wii U. So I suppose you're right. But it's interesting to see that it took so long. So one question I had for you guys though that I was curious about, because I feel very differently than I think the rest of the internet does about it. What were the first opening moments? And I think we can keep this chat spoiler free, or we can delve into spoilers. But I
think let's keep it spoiler free.
Cool.
It's still early doors. Let's be
okay,
kind.
Sounds good. Yeah, and I don't feel that the story isn't really the major talking point here, anyways. But how did both of you feel about like the first few hours of the game? You know, actually just like getting into the world, you know, picking your starter, catching a few Pokemon. How did you feel about that first experience? And why don't Alex? Why don't you go first?
Well, I believe that John and I had a relatively similar experience. And John, feel free to tell me I'm a bumhole and I'm wrong. But from what from what I felt, I enjoyed the initial start, but it felt very much like classic Pokemon, not in terms of the gameplay, but in the sense of go to this area, speak to someone, you know, they're just flapping their gums. I don't know what they're really saying. You know, I know what the plot is, and I've read all the text, but I've kind of skimmed it because every time they gave you the freedom to go out and throw balls and everything like that, that was what I wanted to do every single time. And when, you know, sort of someone would say, oh, you need to go and talk to blah, 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 and they will take you through, what to do next. Like I suppose, in lieu of a rival character, kind of the partner character. I think Akari, if you're a boy, and I can't remember the name of the other one if you're a girl.
I think it's Ray, maybe. But
yeah, like there's this moment where they're like, hey, Akari will take you through all the things you need to do. And you could just, in theory, ignore her. And I did for like an hour. I just ran around and I had an amazing time. And then I caught up with her and she was like, did you know you could throw a Pokeball at a Pokemon? I mean, I don't think it was that simple, but all the time that they were doing the plot and everything, it was okay, but it was slow. And I just wanted to get back in. So I enjoyed it, but I was definitely doing my best to just spend as much time as I could in the actual game and not in the narrative.
Yeah, I was very much the same. Like, in most Pokemon games, my objective is usually to make my way through the world, like go to the next town, do the gym, and just sort of progress through the story. But, like, thus far in Legends, I'm just, like, going off the beaten track far more often than I ever do. Because it's just fun to go around and catch Pokemon. And then the story, like, it gets good, but it starts off very, very slow. And there's some interesting stuff for, like, the lore and everything, but still, I'd much rather just play the game. And it seems the story's like, at every chance it gets, it's trying to stop you from playing the game. And, yeah, that feels very slow at the start.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about the story, too, is that I appreciate that the story's there and that they're going so in-depth with so many little details, but I think in the initial, like, the first hour of the game, there's just so much story before you actually start to really, like, get to play the game. And maybe that's sort of why initially I wasn't feeling so good. Like the first 2 hours of the game, because I played a bit during the embargo period, and I played a little bit and just wasn't feeling good about it and was really nervous. And but then, you know, after I got, I'd say 4 or 5 hours in, but after I made it some more time into the game was when I really started appreciating the world and the catch mechanics. And because at first it just felt a little too boring and bland. And like, yes, catching Pokemon in the overworld was a new feeling, but it really took some time for me to warm up to it. And now, like, you know, this weekend I dedicated my entire weekend to it just because I wanted to. And I'm so glad that I like completely 180'd on it, because I was not excited at first. And maybe it really was that the story was bogging me down. I'm not sure. And I don't want to say that the story was boring. Like, I don't want to say that I don't want story in Pokemon games. I absolutely do. But I think just the way that they were kind of forcing this narrative on you, and it wasn't really delivered in the most exciting way either. It just, but otherwise, I've really been loving the game. How do you feel about the overall interactions you have with your party so far as well, like your party Pokemon and just the way that you level them up as well? Do either of you feel a little like disconnected from them, or do you feel more connected than you did in past games? How does that feel?
I think more connected. Like in other games, they sort of incentivize you to like do little mini games with them. Like on 3DS, you'll use the touchscreen and sort of just tap them, or in Pokemon Sword and Shield, you can camp with them. And that stuff was alright, but it wasn't really interacting with the Pokemon. It was just kind of like this very disconnected element. Whereas now, I feel like it's a lot more than just battling. Like, you can just throw them out there and chill with them if you want to. Like throw out your entire party and just have them chill around you. That's kind of cool. But they can also do a bunch of other things, like they can get materials for you, or they can break rocks open. It just feels like they are more than battle companions, and are actually more like they are how you interact with the world, that feels way more important than what previous games did.
Yeah, their inclusion just feels a lot more organic. I mean, to be honest, I think that would be how I would describe the entire game. It just feels a lot more organic. The fact that all the battles just take place in the world, you throw the Pokeball out and, the battle begins. And hey, if there are a lot of enemy Pokemon around, wild Pokemon, and suddenly, you're being aggressive or just existing as, which can be interpreted as aggressive, you throw your Pokemon out. Hey, say there are 3 Paras and an Alpha Parasect near you. All 4 of them are going to try and attack your one Pokemon at the same time.
And that's so crazy.
And it's great. It forces you to be clever and to think around things, because you can't just throw your Pokemon out and just battle with them and trounce them. I find the battles are a lot harder and also a lot quicker. I swear everything has been buffed a little bit. Everyone's a bit stronger, and it's not to any ludicrous degree. And, a strong Pokemon will definitely, take out a weaker Pokemon. It's not like it feels like it's just streamlined the battles as well. They just feel quicker. And just very briefly, can we talk about the sound design? I love the sound design when you're in battles in particular, with like the wood on wood, the clonking sounds when you're selecting items. That's just, mwah.
Yeah, it's really good. They still got like a lot of classic sounds in there, but they feel more at home now. Like it's still a bit strange when Pikachu makes like Game Boy's noise, but apart from that, for the most part, everything is very much more organic than it has been in the past. And it feels like we're not just going through the motions anymore. Like, a lot of the time in previous games, you would like find a trainer and, I've got 5 Magikarp and I'm going to throw them all at you and they only know Splash. Like, that's not that fun. But now we don't have that repetition, because you're kind of in control of what you do rather than being on this determined path now. You can go anywhere you want, and battles in themselves are more about using all of your party. I guess if you trained one Pokemon up a lot, you probably could just get through the game with them, but that's not been my experience. I've been using a lot more of my party than any previous Pokemon game.
Yeah, same here.
I think also the starters are maybe not as powerful as they were, or maybe it's just how they've balanced the type spread over the included Pokemon. But I found that, there's, I'm finding fewer and fewer Pokemon that I can just absolutely wipe the floor with. Like Ruby and Sapphire famously had a lot of water Pokemon, so you could just go through really easily with a decent grass type. But you can't. I'm not saying every other Pokemon game has had that, but it feels way more balanced here. And it may just be a perception thing, and in reality, that's not the case. But yeah, I just sort of feel that you have to be way more tactical.
And like it's just packed with quality of life stuff too. Like even compared to like what Sword and Shield had as a mainline game, you can now choose when you want to evolve a Pokemon. it doesn't just happen anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, you can always cancel it, but now you just go into a menu and say, all right, it's time to evolve.
Yep.
That's cool.
And that's kind of one of the cool things you guys were lightly touching on too, is the fact that everything just goes by a lot quicker now. And you're absolutely right. You know, like the fact that you choose when a Pokemon evolves, you choose what kind of moves you want to add to a Pokemon. You know, like even the EXP just goes by after a battle's done, and you can completely run out of the area, and the EXP happens on the side of the screen while you're doing whatever, while you're going to your next destination, or while you're going to go throw a Pokeball at a tree or something. You know, like there's all these things that kind of just speed up the process of the game, and it doesn't feel like things take as long as they used to, you know, in the other Pokemon games. When I was playing, I played through Pokemon Blue last year, and while I was playing that game, I felt very comfortable with playing it while watching TV or sitting as a passenger in a car or something, and, you know, just while multitasking, you know. But I feel like this game, it's not as easy to multitask because there's less moments where you're not involved with the game. Like you're constantly in control of your character, and you're not bumping through menus. Maybe there's the story moments that maybe someone wouldn't want to pay attention to, but that's their own problem. You know, you're not seeing these same menus over and over and over again, and it's really impressive to see that they've kind of managed to find this space where we're still getting in the battles. You know, it doesn't really feel like they cut anything out. They just cut out a bit of the unnecessary fluff, and
it's obviously technically flawed, but I still feel like artistically the colors are really good. Mm-hmm. Like especially on the OLED, some of the sunsets in particular are really artistically pleasing. But at the same time, sometimes you throw a Pokeball on the ground and the grass just flickers and it looks really strange.
I must admit, you know, I fully agree with you in terms of the graphics and the presentation. Well, maybe not presentation. I think the menus look really nice. But in terms of the sort of graphical fidelity and things like that, it's not great. It's not terrible. Like, I've definitely seen worse. Admittedly, you should have higher expectations for a franchise as big as Pokemon, but even so, you know, it's okay. It's acceptable. But the one thing that I think is absolutely drop dead gorgeous is the skybox.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
beautiful. It's absolutely, like, I love it. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. It's really crisp. It's really clean. The colors are lovely. The way that they've used the clouds and everything. It's a really simple, I'm pretty sure it's just like a couple of PNGs. Like trailing over one another, but the effect is superb.
And it always looks good, like whether it's sunset or day or night.
Yeah,
you have this gorgeous sky and this really low poly floor. It's such a weird mix, but yeah, it looks great. And like one thing I was really technically happy with is I was doing the balloon mini game where you ride on your mount and you've got to pop all the balloons.
Oh sure.
And during that, a shiny appeared. And
no way.
Yeah, a shiny appeared, but during that minigame, you can't get off the mount. You can't interact with the Pokemon. And I thought to myself, am I screwed if I just missed a shiny? So I tried to get off, and the only way you can do that is by exiting the minigame. So it faded to black, went to a loading screen, and I thought to myself, God, I've missed my opportunity, haven't I? It's just despawned it. But then I ran maybe like a minute away, so it was pretty far distance. And the shiny, I think was it Cricketut? Is that how you pronounce it?
Oh, cool.
It was a Cricketune, wasn't it?
Yeah, Cricketut. That's
the one that goes.
That's the one. That's him. And he was still right there. He was just as shiny as ever, just lounging around. So that thing that went past the loading screen was still there afterwards, and I was so happy about that. So, like, technically, that's a cool thing.
I also wanted to ask you too. So while I was playing, you know, one of the big complaints that a lot of people have is they wish that that the world was full of more stuff, and I do kind of agree with that. That I wish there was there were more like random structures to kind of draw your attention, or just more things to do in the overworld besides catching Pokemon. But I think in the same talking about that as well, I feel like when I'm running around, like there have been times where I've just ran around to go and get more apricorns because I need some to make Pokeballs. And maybe I'm also just keeping my eyes peeled for shinies. I think the fact that there are less trees and less things to kind of get in the way of Pokemon is almost a benefit to the player as well. And I'm not trying to defend the fact that the world is like slightly empty, but I think as somebody who's searching for rare Pokemon, I think it's easier to spot them when there's less stuff in the world. Now, I do think that they could get away with that by, having more trees and have them be taller, so that way they don't necessarily get in the way of what you're trying, to see on the ground.
Yeah, there's definitely pros and cons. I think in the future, like if this series continues, I would like to see it be a bit more populated. But at the same time, I guess, like, think of it like Korok seeds. Like, you see some trees off in the distance, and you think, that's a Korok. You kind of get that with Pokemon. Like, you just see a Pokemon off in the distance, and they catch your attention immediately. And I think Pokemon are enough to fulfill an open world. You don't necessarily need all the other stuff, even if it would be appreciated. But I like, so far from playing, the Pokemon have been more than enough to justify the world.
I'm inclined to agree with John here. I do think that just from somebody on the outside looking in, not actually playing the game, I think, yeah, it does look empty, it looks barren. But when you're actually playing the game, I don't think it is. I mean, yeah, I certainly wouldn't say no to maybe a little bit more foliage and maybe some more variety in what's available, but at the same time, Breath of the Wild is quite barren as a game. But that sort of lends itself. The sort of alternative, I'm not saying there can't be a happy medium, but the sort of other end of the spectrum would be something like, what was it called? Phoenix Rising? Immortals Phoenix
sure.
Rising.
That's it.
Yeah, that is peppered with stuff to do. And it's overwhelming. But it's always the same stuff to do, and it's tiresome, and you sort of feel, do I do everything in this area and then move on? It doesn't sort of encourage you to explore, because there's so many things grabbing your attention going, no, look at me, do this, do that. Sort of, there's all these missions you can do, all these little bonus things, and it's like, you have that to a degree in Pokemon, but it's always things like, it's just a few bits of resources or some stuff like that. And you can throw your Pokemon as you're going past. The Pokemon deals with it, brings you back the item, and you're still going, you're still moving. You've barely broken your pace, and I think that's a really, really positive thing about this game. The downtime, I mean, traditionally in Pokemon, the downtime is pretty substantial. You're waiting for stuff to happen, you're waiting for loading screens, menus, that sort of thing. The downtime in this is almost non-existent. It's just like everything. Even when you want to fast travel in the world, it takes like 2 seconds to fast travel from one side to the other.
Yeah, it's very fast.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, the game is not perfect. I definitely have some things I would like to change about them, but for the moment, let's gush, eh? Let's gush.
And it's nice for resources to feel limited again. Like, in any other Pokemon game, you can go to a market and just buy all the Pokeballs you want. And like, you still get a lot of money in this, but it feels like gathering and resources have a lot more importance. And I've ran out of Pokeballs quite a few times. And just like the flow of getting more resources and making more feels good. I don't really want to buy any from the shop. I kind of just want to go around and keep gathering them and making them myself, because it feels a bit more fulfilling than just having an infinite resource, much like you could in any other Pokemon game.
And that connection that you're
have you been expanding your satchel much?
A little bit, yeah.
Oh my god, I've got to like 30 slots, and the guy wants like 20 grand now.
Yeah, like, it matters now. It's never mattered before. You just had all the money in the world, but now, now there's actually consequence to doing things.
That's a good point.
I have to go out of my way. Like, if there is a space-time distortion about, I'll sort of go, oh my god, yes, I'm going there, not just because of the Pokemon that could be there, but also because, I might find a nugget or a comet shard or something. And those things are really worth getting, because you need to sell them, because you need to buy a surprising amount of stuff. And yeah, there are some things that you can, like just tumblestones and stuff, you can get in the overworld, but if you need a lot, it's often better to just buy it. Like, it really feels like they've actually thought about, and I hate to say this, the economy of the game way more than they have in previous.
And I think the big thing about all of this too is, and I know we've probably touched on this like 20 times in this whole discussion already, but for the most part, like, all of this is just fun to do, because I think, like going out and farming resources. At first I was kind of like, every time I run past a tree, I should throw a Pokemon out and just and gather the resources from it, or do the same from a rock. But then I started realizing like that the Pokemon that you throw out gain experience, and now like I have my like giant massive alpha shiny Bidoof that I've been like slowly leveling up by throwing it at trees and at minerals to farm, and sometimes I throw it out in battles, but now I've started to like form a relationship, I guess, with this like just big chonker, and it's so fun to is it a
Bidoof or is it a Bibarel?
I have a Bidoof. I'm never gonna evolve it. I'm gonna try to get it to level 99, and I'm just gonna leave it there.
That's excellent.
I'm surprised because initially I felt very detached from my Pokemon. I felt like they were leveling up way too fast, but now I feel like I'm at a pace where they're leveling up slowly, and like I just went to go evolve my Ponyta, and I actually had to pull it out and start battling Pokemon that I wouldn't have normally gone out of my way to battle, and I'm like establishing connections with them that I thought I wouldn't. That like wouldn't have been possible in other games, I suppose, and kind of like how you mentioned earlier, John, like how you're able to just throw it out and you're able to have a conversation with it. And I found out yesterday that if you hit like the Y or the B button or even just the A button when you're speaking with them, your character will actually say different things to them, and then the Pokemon will interact differently. And I don't think it really
Really?
Yeah, it doesn't really matter.
Oh my God, I need to do that.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter, I don't think, in the grand scheme of things, but it's just fun. And it's just so cute and charming, and it gets me so excited about the idea of, and I like everybody has to be thinking about this now, but like where is the series going to go next? Like if this is Pokemon's weird experimental spin-off that they keep telling us, like guys, remember, this is not the mainline series. This is a spin-off. It's like Nintendo trying to say that they're going to keep supporting the 3DS after the Switch launched. It's like them just like trying to be careful, like, oh, if everybody hates this, then it's a spin-off. Don't worry.
Well, actually in Japan, they've actually been referring to this as the next game in the Pokemon series, and apparently the way that they've worded it is very much implying that it's a mainline game.
Oh.
Like Joe Cerebi has been all about it, and he's been sort of having words with people on the internet, on Twitter, or, sort of saying, no, it's a mainline game, the Pokemon Company in Japan is saying it's a mainline game, and I think that's, maybe they are kind of hedging their bets a little bit, as you say, Xeon. So it's just kind of like, if it were a complete failure, they could go, oh, no, sorry, that's just the Legends series, mate. No.
This is exciting, though, because the last Pokemon games were like a month and a half ago or something like that. Like Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. And the fact that this launch has been really successful, too, shows that they are able to put out two big... Sorry, I hit the table there. They're able to put out two big games in such a short time span and have them both be successful, which says to me that they can have multiple ongoing Pokemon series at the same time doing different things, and all of them be successful. But I do hope that Generation 9, when it comes along, doesn't just revert back to what they were doing before. There's a lot they can learn from Legends without necessarily being Legends. I think Legends thrives at being like a resource management game where you go around and actually collect everything yourself. But I think the seamlessness is something they should really take to the next game. Like just being able to throw out a Pokemon and battle in that environment without going to some sort of void screen where you battle there. Just having everything working within one coherent world is something that I really want to see with all Pokemon games, no matter what they're aiming for.
I've got to be honest, if the next game is only taking a few elements from Legends, I'm going to be very disappointed, because this is flat out the most fun I've had with a arguably mainline Pokemon game in about 20 years. Like, it has completely recaptured the magic. It fits so well. It really still manages to encapsulate the, if you'll pardon the pun, of Pokemon. It really captures that idea 100%. It puts it in a different context, but it puts it how we imagined Pokemon in our minds. This is how we imagined Pokemon being, in theory, in the real world when we were younger. We'd run around the world and, look, there's a Pokemon over there. Sneak up behind it, throw a Pokeball, or, throw a Pokemon out to catch. This is how we've imagined Pokemon to be, and it is finally being realized. And I can't believe it's taken this long. But I am still so pleased so pleased that it has happened.
So one of my favorite things about playing the Pokemon games is the fact that I just love being surprised by all of the new Pokemon that are actually in the world. Like when I played, what was it? I think when I played Black and White, I think, back in the day, the game, I think it was that series that doesn't really give you any of the classic generation Pokemon until after you've beaten the game or until you're like fairly far into it. So all of the Pokemon...
Yeah, it's after the Pokemon League.
It was? Okay, cool. So like all of the...
brand new Pokemon the entire time.
So yeah, so all the Pokemon that you're experiencing, like you said, are completely brand new, and there's just like something new to discover around every corner. And now with Legends Arceus, like anyone who's played a Pokemon game in the past, it's probably... that magic is probably gone, you would think. But I think there's something so like just different and exciting about being able to discover these Pokemon in the overworld instead, and sneaking up and like, or looking off in the distance and seeing something that you think might be new, something that you've never seen before, isn't in your Pokedex, and going up and then actually trying to catch it, or seeing how they interact in the overworld. Like there was one Pokemon that I found in the first area that it was an alpha, and I don't want to spoil what it is because I want everybody else to be just as terrified of it as I was. But it was a first generation Pokemon just walking around, waltzing with its red eyes, and it was... you can't, that experience wouldn't have happened in the same way because of the way that the Pokemon are sized, or just the fact that they get so angry and aggressive in this game as well, or at least the alphas do. And it was such a unique experience that I'm excited. The idea of someday being able to do this same thing, but with a completely brand new batch of Pokemon, you know, like seeing something for the first time and not fully understanding what it is that you're actually looking at, you know, and like maybe sneaking up like closer, like so that way you can get a better look at it and like fully revealing it just sounds so cool. Because like if we sneak up on a Snorlax, right? We already know, once we see the back of it, we already know realistically what the front's going to be like. But I don't know, there's just something so exciting and like that I don't know. I want to be able to do this again, but with a completely new batch of Pokemon.
Yeah, that's going to be amazing.
Well, I've just had a thought, actually. In theory, it was a brand new Pokemon, but you see a Mimikyu in the distance, and you sort of think, hey, look, it's a Pikachu. And then all of a sudden you see this black hand come out from underneath it, and you're like, what the hell is that?
Oh, sure.
That would be amazing in a sort of a real world experience.
I think in a real world experience, it would be horrifying and you would run.
All right,
okay, thank you.
An open world experience. A little snafu here, a little snafu there. But I agree with you. I think there are some fantastic, exciting moments. But I do have some misgivings about the game, some things I think they could improve upon.
Okay.
Besides just like the like the visuals and the technical aspects. Yeah, those are obvious, but there are some things where I think there's a bit of a slip up. One of them is the limited amount of new Pokemon. Like there are some new Pokemon in here, but they are the minority by a long chalk. And I mean, I didn't actually play the games myself, but I've seen other people saying this. A lot of these are the same Pokemon that people caught like a month and a half ago in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. So there is definitely a degree of sort of, I don't want to say disappointment, but same old about this. And I do think that the Pokedex, they could have done with more Hisuian forms. I think they could have done with just some brand new Pokemon as well. And I know they've got some new evolutions and stuff like Weirdeer, and that's all we're going to mention. But, you know, I just sort of feel that maybe they could have done a bit more, and I think it would have been even more exciting.
Yeah, I also feel like the rideable Pokemon, one of them comes way too early, I feel. Like, you don't really get the chance to fully master your abilities before they're like, oh, now you can gallop everywhere you want. Which isn't a spoiler, that's been in trailers.
Yeah.
But I feel like there should have been some kind of limitation. Like, in Breath of the Wild, you don't always have your horse unless you've got the DLC teleporting thing. I think it feels a lot better when you can have some sort of limitation and overcome it with gathering abilities or something like that. I think that's something that would be more appreciated if you didn't have constant access to it. So, I feel like that could be improved upon later.
Yeah,
I think maybe you could sort of solve those problems, because I sort of agree with you, but at the same time, I like the fact that you don't have to have like You don't have to like go to a menu or anything like that. And I know you wouldn't necessarily, I know that's not necessarily what you're saying, but at the same time, I think maybe if you're riding Weirdeer and it's just much more like if you run into a wall or something, then Weirdeer disappears. Something like that. Something that's a limitation without it sort of stripping you away or artificially limiting your use.
Yeah, you're saying you don't want Weirdeer to have like a stamina meter or something, right? But
yeah, I think just being able to yeah, that's the thing. We're not game developers, but I feel like it's just something that you have such eased access, especially so early on, that it kind of stops you from exploring on your own 2 feet, because you can just gallop anywhere at any time you want. And I think having little limitations can definitely improve how you appreciate something. Because I'm not appreciating Weirdeer. I'm just riding him anywhere I want, because I can.
There's also one thing, and it's minor, but it's like, in my mind, it's a bit of a game design sort of like sin, is the fact that to run when you're just on your feet, you click the left stick in, you have a sort of invisible stamina meter. That's fine, you can run for a bit. It's a dash, a sprint, whatever you want to call it. But then when you're on Weirdeer, clicking the left stick does nothing. You have to hold B, which,
That's
okay.
Weird.
But then, when you're actually when you're not mounted on anything, and you press B, you actually crouch, so you go a lot slower. You go into sort of stealth mode. That's like, the same button does the opposite thing, depending on context. That's a bit of a mistake, in my view. I think maybe they should have just click the left stick in to sprint with Weirdeer.
Yeah.
I think that would have been fine.
Although you also can't sprint and like use the camera very well either. I notice like when I'm sprinting, sometimes I'll hold the B button down with like my middle finger or something, or like my pointer finger, and then move the analog stick with my
the Monster Hunter claw.
Yeah,
the
exactly.
camera locks in place when you're sprinting.
Oh, it does?
Into sort of like, yeah. I mean, you can turn it, but it starts to sort of turn itself far more than it would like regularly.
Yeah, you're totally right. And I guess I kind of appreciate that, because like forward is where we want to look, but as the player, like, no, we're in control. Like we choose where we want to look. Come on.
Totally. I do think there's also a missed potential with luring Pokemon. Like I know you can lure Pokemon that you can already see, but maybe you could sort of, rather than throwing an Oran Berry to, get the attention of a Pokemon that's there, you could maybe choose to lay out, sort of like actually place like, not a trap, but like a sort of a lure. Not throwing it to get a single Pokemon's attention then have it disappear, but something that you put down on the floor and then you come back to it later, and depending on what you've put down, different Pokemon may appear.
Yeah, they could almost incorporate, like they've incorporated enough other features from Pokemon Go that you'd think something like that would have been an easy inclusion as well. But yeah, that's a good idea. I dig that. Even like the ability
maybe even go the extra mile, and you can actually see, rather than going away and coming back for a bit, you can just step back and Pokemon will spawn out of your field of view, and they will just sort of like, sort of come around a corner or something, and they'll come over and they'll sort of have a look and they'll go, oh, there's something there. They'll go in, have a little nibble or something, and then, sort of actually have it so that you just stand to one side rather than coming back later and they're still eating the Oran berries.
I guess this isn't a misgiving. It's more just the focus of the game, but multiplayer isn't a focus at all. Like, this is a single-player focused game. And I feel like it's not maybe strictly necessary that it has to be that. Like, being able to just battle friends online or trade wouldn't be like...
I mean, you can trade.
Oh, yeah, you can trade, right?
Oh, have you seen the trading animation?
I have the rocket thing,
It's the best thing in the world. Xeon,
oh, is it? I have not.
Yeah, no, I tell you what, after this, I'm going to trade something with you.
Okay.
And you are going to record that and stick it in the video.
Okay, please.
Being able to battle online, I guess it's okay, but I think it would have been appreciated. But at the same time, I think focusing on the single player is a lot of fun. And it's nice that these can sort of coexist. Like, we've got the main series, which a lot of competitive action is going to gravitate to. But it's nice that this can just sort of focus on the single-player experience, and not necessarily fall into the same sort of traps that the mainline games kind of have to fulfill that competitive angle. So yeah, this isn't really a problem, but I think having a bit more multiplayer could be something that future games do, though.
I think with the wrong friends, I don't think this would work as well, but imagine being able to go on like a Pokemon hunt adventure with a friend to go and
Totally.
let's say the three of us, I mean, maybe even just two, maybe it'd have to be limited to two, but let's say one of us has been searching for a certain one and the other one just wants to go tag along and see if we can find that or see what else we discover. And, maybe battling gets taken out of the equation during those moments or something, but just being able to go and catch Pokemon together with somebody would be so cool.
I mean, Pokemon raids are so disconnected to Sword and Shield. Like, you find those dens, you find a menu, you group up with people. Imagine just being in a party, just venturing through the world, and just seeing, I guess the alpha is the comparison here, but imagine just finding a giant alpha and fighting it together in the world, rather than just having this sort of meet-up like you do in Sword and Shield. Like, that dynamic nature would work really well.
There's something else as well. I think it's maybe one of the reasons why they don't have battling online, but I don't know whether you have noticed, but the battling is a lot simpler in many regards. Like the combat, there's no abilities. There's no held items. It's just moves. And it took me a while to even notice that because it's so organic and I didn't really sort of miss them at all. It was just, it's the Pokemon. They've got these moves. They've got these types. Have at it.
I really hope.
And to be honest, I think I prefer that in many ways. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like the inclusions of abilities and stuff like that. And I know a lot of people really do enjoy them. Adds extra wrinkles. But at the same time, for a completely solo adventure, I'm well up for just simplifying things like this.
And it particularly works because we're not battling all the time. Like, it's not like we're battling for every capture anymore. Like, battling is just kind of... It's not rare, but it's not really the focus of the game anymore. It's now more about exploration than battling.
It's totally infrequent. So, I think to sort of wrap up this discussion, it sounds like we're all very... we have... The game has problems. We have our hangups with it. But overall, it seems like the game is it's just been a lot of fun. But so the last question that I kind of wanted to ask to sort of wrap this all up then in turn was where would you like to see the series actually go from here? Or what's some way that you would like to see this formula implemented into a next game, whether it be you can take it wherever you want. You could talk about a remake, you could talk about the next entry in the series. Just what's some way that you would love to see the series go on with this style?
I think exploring sequels is really interesting because a lot of Pokemon remakes, like specifically Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, it's the same game again, just with a graphical facelift. And other ones, they have added new things and sort of made them like parallel world sequels kinda. But they aren't like Black and White 2, for instance. Whereas this feels like a chance to make a Diamond and Pearl sequel properly. Because we are technically still in Sinnoh, it's just far in the past, so far in the past that everything feels very different. But it feels like a great opportunity to sort of revisit these worlds again. And I think there's more room to do that, and one interesting way to do it might even be to go into the future. So like we have almost like a sci-fi Pokemon, like maybe going back, and people want Let's Go Johto, or some people do, but it'd be interesting to do like a futuristic Johto, and like I guess maybe things have changed in like the dynamics of Pokemon have changed. They're kind of like the past where they're not still allies anymore. Maybe there's like some sort of post-apocalyptic threat or something.
Johtopia.
Yeah, there you go, Johtopia. But yeah, I think there's a lot more room for Legends to explore. But also, how can it bleed into the mainline series, or like the proper like gym formula would be interesting as well. I feel like a lot of it just very naturally gives itself to that formula. But it'd be interesting to see where they take it though.
I would like them to take basically all the mechanics of Legends and put them in the standard next double game. If they even end up doing that, who knows? Maybe they, Gen 9 will just be a singular game. It'll just be Pokemon Beans. I wouldn't mind a cohesive open world. I don't think it's necessary. I've still been really enjoying Arceus, even, the fact that it's several sort of smaller, large areas. But even, sort of a big cohesive world like that, but with towns that you just walk into, like Hateno in Breath of the Wild, and so many others, and there's no loading screens. You just go in a place, and you open a door, and you're in the building, and it exists in the same world. I just want that next step to make it this big, cohesive, seamless experience, because Legends is already so seamless. And yeah, it's got some problems, I fully agree, but this is easily the best I think Pokemon has been for decades. Absolutely decades. So realistically, I almost want them to take Legends and build upon it further. Maybe reintroduce some older style things, you know, like more towns and stuff like that, and gyms and stuff like that. Yeah, I'm down with that, but yeah, oh my god, let's not step backwards, okay? Let's not step back into the quote-unquote classic Pokemon and start looking at ways that we can take the classic Pokemon elements and introduce them into Legends, rather than, well, the Legends style gameplay. Rather than, you know, sort of taking a step back and just going back to what we were, let's make Legends 2.
Well said. Very well said. Honestly, everything that you just described gets me really excited for someday being able to battle in a giant, like a massive gym like Brock's or something, where we have to take on this huge behemoth Onix, and we have this like little pitiful Charmander on our team or something. That sounds so cool. Now, while I've been playing through Pokemon Legends, I've been thinking about how cool it would be to go run back through Kanto in the same exact style, but we've already received remakes of like Gen 1 in the form of like Fire Red and Leaf Green in years past, and then recently on Switch we also got Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, which also retell the story of Kanto. But that got me thinking about a story that we've never seen in video game form before, and I think that's the kind of something that Legends Arceus is doing well, is that, yes, at times we don't want to pay attention to the story, but it's diving deeper into Pokemon lore than I think any other game has before. I feel like I'm fair to say that.
I think it's doing a better job. Other games have tried, but I think this is much more understandable.
I see. But so the one thing that I got thinking about that was how incredible it would be to see the characters and the story from the Pokemon manga converted into a video game. Because like we've had that a little bit in anime form. Like I think they've done some shorts here and there, or they've touched on some of those characters. But we've never seen like red, green, and blue and yellow. Like yellow has never had a chance to shine in video game form. And it would be so cool to follow them, and we would have these characters that we, you know, like, sure, we've some people have known about them, like growing up from reading the manga before they even knew what manga was, or maybe they've gone back and read them in recent years. But I think it would just be so incredible to see how that would translate to a video game, because there were some incredible fights in those series too that just they're locked away in these pages. And I think I'm not trying to say that the manga is not worth your time or something, you know, or that you should just absolutely play the games instead. But I would love to see how they expand upon that world of Pokemon, because I think it is such a different. It's viewed with a different lens, and Pokemon they're treated a little bit differently in the way that they are interacted with. There's a lot of material there that they could work with, and I just that would be an interesting route. I would love to see the series go. But I suppose we've already talked to, we basically talked to the point that we said we would chat for. So now this is probably the perfect spot to stop chatting. But I'm glad to know.
Can I just say one more thing?
Yeah, go for it.
I really like that your character actually has a presence and an impact in the world, rather than being a vessel for your Pokemon. Like you can black out because you've taken too many hits. You're a Pokemon now.
That's true.
And we hide in the grass rather than Pokemon hiding in the grass.
My mind, was it you that tweeted about that the other day?
I've not seen a tweet of that.
Okay,
I thought that was an original John thought.
Somebody did, or maybe somebody just mentioned it to me online. But that broke me.
It's a John fact.
When I noticed that, yeah, because I didn't naturally think of it. I read it somewhere, but it's incredible. Like all of your Pokemon can get knocked out, and you are still alone to rush them back to camp to heal them up. It's cool. This game is an incredible step in the right direction.
It's more than a step. This is the long-awaited. This is the long-awaited sprint that they've needed for about 15 years.
I suppose you're right, because I keep thinking back on the fact that there are so many things that I want them to do differently. So maybe that's so much to me why it feels like a step. But in reality, they have changed so much that I think you're fair to say that. But of course, we are not the only ones with opinions on Pokemon Legends Arceus. Please let us know. It may seem like it. Just kidding. But of course, let us know in the comments down below what you think of Pokemon Legends Arceus. Don't let our opinions be the only ones living on the internet. Let us know what you think. Let us know the things that you love about it, and let us know the things that you don't like, because that's how opinions work. And of course, if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more videos like this, then why don't you take that subscribe button and patch it up, do some cool little things with it that the community's been asking you to do forever and ever and ever, like turn it into a podcast or something, and then click that subscribe button, because that's how you get to see all of our future videos when they go up. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for joining me, guys. Stay safe out there, and we will see you all next time.
John, gather those resources.
Gather, gather, gather. I want to see a Pokemon game that's like Final Fantasy 15, where you and your band of boyfriends go on a journey
In a car.
and drive around
In the past.
In a car, yeah. I think that would be really, that'd be really good.
It has to be a Rotom car, though.
Yeah.
Pokemon Legends Porygon.
I'd play that.